Welcome to PowerShell once again. So today it's a PowerShell programming and we are going to dive into Python straight away forward. So today we are going to design this simple login page as you see here. Like for example, when I just press login here, it says wrong username or password. But when I put PowerShell as the username, or then let me type the password, as you see, it is 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I say login, you see it brings our hello world window. But if I type in PowerShell and I type in some other password, I see, oh, this is the password is here, type in some other password, login, wrong username or password, then this one delete, it deletes our entry and we start typing afresh. I see, delete, then exit, automatically it exits our window. When I run again, you type in PowerShell as the username, then you type in the password is 1, 2, 3, 4, and say login. It brings our hello world window with a very good title and a very good icon. So let's dive in and see how we can come up with this one. So we are going to create our new file and we are going to name it. I've pressed Ctrl Shift S. Now here I'm going to name on the desktop, I have a folder called my app, and I'm going to name my new app as login.py. .py means it's going to be a Python file. Now I already have here my PowerShell icon that I'm going to be using. It must be in the same folder with our file. Please, if you would like to know how to create an icon, don't forget to post it in the comments below. There we go. So this one is our login.py file that we are going to use, and we are going to develop our graphical user interface using a library called Tkinter, or you can pronounce it in any way. So from Tkinter we are going to say import, and I'm going to put a star. A star means I'm going to import everything from Tkinter. Those are the widgets like buttons, entries, frames, whatsoever. So allow me zoom a bit. So there we go. Now to create our software, we are going to first start by creating a container that is going to hold our data, a container that's going to hold our things, the buttons, the whatsoever. And here we are going to call that container root, and we are going to say root equals tk. Then this container must keep running on the screen. It must be there, and then it must be a loop. So we are just going to simply say main loop. Here I'm trying also to show the simplicity of Python programming. Please, if you would want to download Python, check out the link in the description. Also the editor I'm using, Sublime Text. It is the easiest. You can also check out the link for download in the description below. So this is enough to create our container. When I run this one, you can see this is our container. So it starts up from the corner or anywhere on the screen. It has an icon. The title is TK. The icon is something like a leaf. When you resize it, you can see what happens. So let's try to change this behavior here. And how do we change? We are going to start by giving our container a title, and we are going to say root.title, quotation marks. Our title is going to be login app. That is the title. It's done. Then we are going to give it the icon. We are going to say root.icon bitmap. Now, as I told you, the icon file here is bitmap, not bootmap. As I told you, the icon file must be in the same folder with the file, or if not, you must put the directory properly. Mine is in the same folder, so I'll just say my icon file is called bawashir.icon. Now bawashir is the name of the file and icon is the file type, and in Python icons we use icon files. So this is enough to give our window a title, as you see, login app, and the icon has also changed. As I told you earlier that it must be in the same folder. What else? I'm going to change the background color of our container, that is root.config. You can say config, you can say configure in full, it's up to you. Root.config, BG stands for background color, and I'm going to choose, you can choose any, mine I'm going to choose purple. And here you can use color name or color code, but not any, it must be understandable by Python. As we check, you see my window is now in purple. What else? I'm going to resize, to give a size to our window, and it's going to be root.geometry. Are we saying root.geometry quotation mark? So we are going to specify the size of our window, and here I'm just going to give it 540 times 270, that's width by height. Then now this is the position where our app is going to appear. Remember, it's been appearing from this corner, from this corner, from the center. So I just want it to appear from the center around here. That's why I'm adding this plus to put the position of the screen. And my position, I'm just going to have 400 plus 200. When I run this one, you see this is where it is supposed to appear, and this is the size of our container. So we are done with coming up with a container. What next? We have to put our features inside the container. Now here I'm going to have 3 features. I'm going to have the heading, I'm going to have the login credentials, then I'm going to have the buttons. What I'm going to do to be so neat, I'm going to have frames. Each I'm going to give it is a sub container in the main container, and I'm going to call them frames. So the first one, I'm going to call it a heading frame. Heading frame is equals to frame, and it's going to be in the root window or the root container, and it's going to have a background color of light blue. So I'm just trying to use various colors so that you can see how we can use colors, but it is up to you, can use any. So that is heading frame, and I'm going to place it. Now how do we place things in our container? Heading frame dot grid. What does this mean? When I show you here a grid, you see this is a grid box. We have boxes, they are in grid format. We have these ones are columns, then we have these ones are rows. So when I say row 1 column 1, I mean this one. I see. When I say row 2 column 2, I mean this position. So that is how we go on positioning our features in our containers. Hope we are there. So now here with Python, it starts from row 0 column 0, but just I'm going to start from row 1 column 1 for formality. Column equals 1. So that is our first frame. I'm just going to copy this one. Remember I told you I need 3 frames. Then I also again pasted the second time. So this one, instead of heading frame, I'm going to call it login frame. Here I'm also going to say login frame dot grid. Then here I'm going to have button frame. Here also I'm going to have button frame. Now don't forget to change the grid. Here we are going to do the first column. Here it is now in the second column, and here it is in the third column. So there we go. What other feature are we going to add to our frames here? we are going to add a feature called padding. Now padding, I'm going to explain. We have pad on the x-axis equals 10, then we shall also have pad on the y-axis equals 10. And I'm just going to copy this one, Ctrl C, and paste it here and paste it here. Now padding, it means a space. We are going to create the space between our sub container and the main container is going to be a difference of 10 pixels on the sides and on the sides, on both x-axis and y-axis. You are going to properly see this one, because when I run right now, you cannot see. You see there are smaller frames here with that distance, but you cannot see very well. You are going to see when you put in other features. So now we start adding our features. We are going to have a feature called a heading. Are you seeing? And this heading, it is a widget called the label. Now be keen. My label is starting with a capital letter and the rest are in small. So this label is going to be in a sub container called heading frame. Are you seeing? And the label is going to have a text of, let me call my name also, Bawashir login app. Are we there? Now we have various features of this text of ours. One of it we are going to have, it is color, the foreground, and the foreground is FG. We are going to have, I'm going to have it in purple. Are you seeing? Then I'm going to have the background color, it's going to be light blue because I want its background to look the same with it is frame. Then I'm going to have a font. I'm going to have a font, and it is font. I can put it, I can give it Times. That means Times New Romans. You can give any font, and it's going to be a size, and I'm going to give it a font size of 20, comma, then I make it bold. Then I'm going also to make my widget or be of a width 30 or 31. Okay, now from there, this widget of mine, I also have to place it. That is now heading dot grid. And now remember, we have left the other container. Now this is a new container, the heading frame. That means the grid, we can start afresh, of which I'm going to give it row equals 1 also, and the column equals 1. It is not the same with this, because here this is the root container, but here is heading container, the heading frame, so which means the gridding starts afresh. So now when we preview this one, you can see this is our app Bawashir. Now I'm going to add just some little functionality here. Also padding, I'm going to pad on the x-axis equals 10, and the iPad on the y-axis equals 10. So there we go. You see it has changed the distance here, and the distance this way, it has increased a bit. So that is on the x and y axis. It is now properly centered. That is our first widget, Bawashir login app, in our container, in a sub container. Please be conscious and follow critically. There we go. What next? Now we want to add, that frame is done, that container is done. We are going to add some other features in the next container. There we go. Now another feature we are going to add, it is still a label. I'm going to call it username label equals, it is still a label widget, equals label. Then it is going to be in our login frame, our login sub container, and that is login frame, comma, it's going to have a text of username. That is the text, and we are going to have other features such as foreground color is going to be purple. Then we are going to have a future like background color is going to be light blue just because I wanted the background to be the same with the container, it's sub container, light blue. Then I'm going to have a font future font equals times New Romans. Then font size of 20. I'm going also make it bold, then I'm going to have also a width future of around 13. Then I'm going to place. Now if you run this one without placing, you see nothing is there, so this placing is essential, and that is username label.grid. And there we are going to have row equals 1 and column equals 1, because again we are using 1 because this is a new sub container with a new gridding. And I'm just going to have some padding, pad y equals around 20 can be so big, or can just say 10 right away. So now after placing, after the grid, you see now the username can appear. I'm going to have another label, and just I'm going to copy this one, Ctrl C, and paste around here, Ctrl V. Are you seeing? This is what I've pasted. Now I'm just going to change this one into password label. Password label, then the text is going to be password, then the rest is going to remain. Then now here it is going to go to row number 2 since it is still in the same container. And when we run this one, yeah, oh sorry, username, where this one is password, so you have to change this one also, password label.grid. So username, password. Now what is remaining? We need to add the boxes where we type our username and the box where we type our password. So that is, we are going to now see a new entry, and the entry, allow me put it this one around here, and I'm going to call it, this one is username entry, username entry. Now the widget that Python knows is called entry. It starts with a capital E, and it's going to be in the login frame, and it's going to have a width of 20. Then it's going to have a font style of still times. Let me use times. With time we are going to change. Let me just keep on using this one, but you can try out other fonts as you want. So that is times. It's going to have a font size of 20. What else? I think that is it. Then we are going to have to place it now. Username entry don't grid row equals, and now this one we are using the same row equals 1, and column equals, now it is column 2, the same row but column 2, and we are going to have some padding, pad x equals 10 and pad y equals 10. Are we there? Now when we try to view this one, you see it is right here. You can even type in anything that you want, the username. There we go. Now to save time, I'm just going to copy this entry here, then I come and paste it down here. Now I just change the name and call this one password entry. I copy this one, I change to this one also. Then here the everything is going to remain, only now this one is row 2 column 2. When we run this one, very good, you see I can type here, I can type here. Now with a password. When you type a password, someone should not see the password. How do we do that? When we come here to our password entry, I'm going to add here a smaller feature known as show equals. Now it is going to be showing a star. That is what it means. When I run this one, you see, you cannot see what I'm typing. Wow. It is now a star. Now what is remaining? We are remaining with, now I want this one. You see, when you resize, it looks awkward. We want our app to remain the same specific size here so that you cannot resize it. I'm going to come up here at our root, then say root.resizable. Is that the SP? Please, you'll help me. That resizable is 0 by 0. Are we there? So we run that one. Oh, this one is not is a comma. So when you run that one, you see now when I click here, it's not resizable. So that is the specific size of our window that we are going to deal with. No resizing. It should be that one. Now we are remaining with some buttons down here. And how are we going to do that? Let's come back to our Sublime Text. We come to our widget down here. Now we are going to add button. One, I'm going to have a button called delete button. Delete button. Oh, can put this one to help you understand. Now this is another new widget, and we are going to call it a button widget. There we go. It is double T. Now this button widget, it is going in a new frame, and that new frame, let me see here up, we have, it is called button frame. So it is going to come in a button frame, and it's going to have a text of, this one is, let me see, it should be delete. Okay, then it's going to have some font. I've forgotten here, comma. You also don't forget. It's going to have a font of Steel Times. Let's skip that. We are going to change this one, has to be in quotations like that. Someone was quarreling that why do we keep the same font all the time. Okay, that is Calibri, and I'm going to have font size of 15, and I'm going to make it kinda bold. Then I'm going to have this button is going to have a width feature, a width, can I say around 15. Then it's going to have a foreground, that's the color of the text is going to be black. Then it's going to have a background, that is the button color itself is going to be, let me see, blue. What else? Yeah, I think that is, now we need to place our button. So now this is delete button dot grid. I'm going to have, again, this is a new container, so our rows start afresh and our columns also start afresh. And here just I'm going to have a padding on the x-axis of around 5. What happens if I view this one? This is what happens. Now this frame, I want it to have the same color. The button frame should just have a color of purple. You see the light blue which was on the sides has gone away. So this button, to save time, I'm just going to do a copy and paste. Copy, Ctrl C and paste here. So this one I'm going to have a login button. Log button. You can just call it log button. We'll copy this one or Ctrl Z. I paste it here. I see. So here I'm going to change the text to login. Wow, what else I'm going to change here? Row 1 but column 2. The rest shall remain like that. Here I'm going to give it a padding of around This one shall be of 5. No, this one 5, this one is 15. You will see how it will look neat. Then I'm going also to copy this one and paste. I just need something like 3 buttons, and this one I'm going to call it exit button. Exit button. I'm going to copy this one, Ctrl C, and paste it here. Then this one I'm going to change the text to exit. I'm going to change its background color to red. Yeah, uppercase can also work. I'm going to change this one to green. This one I'm just going to give it an negligible padding. Now what happens if I run that one? You see, oh, here it is row 1 column 3, because it is the same row here. This one was column 1, column 2, column 3. That means they are going to appear on the same row, which is row 1, row 1, row 1. So if I run this one, you can see my app is there. Are we seeing? But now if I say this, it has no functionality. Login, nothing happens. Delete, nothing happens. Exit, nothing happens. See you when you see me in the next tutorial. So we are going to see how to add the functionality to our buttons, and when we put in a correct password, when you put in a wrong password, what helps next. See you when you see me in part 2. Don't forget the link in the description.